So the government never realized how much of a hit guy I was. They were after me more for the unions and businesses and stuff like that. Of course, now people say, yeah, it must have been easy. He's involved in 19 murders, so everybody was afraid of him. They didn't know.
All right, so tell me about growing up. I know you had pretty normal parents.
I have very normal parents, legitimate people. My mother was a seamstress. My father was a painter. Back then, they had lead in the paint. He couldn't paint anymore. Got lead poisoning. And he started working with my mother. They opened up a small dress factory and in Brooklyn, New York. They got some contracts from Jewish contractors in Manhattan. They loved the way my mother was able to put things together, and seemed like every Italian woman was a seamstress.
Mm-hmm.
They knew 100 of them in our family and outside our family, and it was good.
I know you used to help your mom or your family at the dress factory. And it's humanizing to think of this mafia underboss that has killed multiple people and done some crazy shit working in a factory helping his mom sort of sew dresses together.
Well, I'm not sewing dresses. I'm not doing anything like that. What I would do is help clean up all those threads on the floor. It's not like the floors of today. It was just a wooden floor, and it was a pain in the ass trying to clean up. I did that. There was heavy bundles that came in, so I would take those bundles and put them on the deck so my father could distribute. Each bundle had different pieces to the garment, and you'd have to put them. So I would do that. I would help them with the payroll. I would help them with different things. When they were shipping, I would put plastic over the dresses and stuff like that and get them ready for shipping. And certain days I came in, certain days I didn't come in. I didn't work there as a job full time. I just went there to help from time to time.
I think my point was less you sewing and more, a lot of people have this image in their head that, okay, he's in the mob or he was in the mob, so he must have had bad parents, been a bad kid, joined gangs from day one. You know, you watch The Godfather and they were like 8 years old throwing rocks at the store that didn't pay the extortion money. You remember this from the movie?
Not really.
I could be getting confused myself, but they had the kids were kind of hired by this mafia guy to break the windows and wreck this guy's fruit store, or this grocery store, because he wouldn't pay them. And I think a lot of people assume that if you grow up and you end up a mobster, that you had something seriously wrong in your childhood, especially with your family.
No, I didn't have anything wrong with my family. Like I said, they were good, hardworking people, very, very legitimate people. So I never had that. And what you're talking about is a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Movies are all bullshit anyway. So they hype things up for the movie, which are not really true. Now, I was dyslexic. I had trouble in school. I got kicked out of school. I joined the gang, the Rampers.
Mm-hmm.
So that was where I learned the streets, stuff like that, but not from my family. I had two sisters. Years before I was born, I had a brother who passed away, and one of the sisters was a twin. She died too. Back then, you died from pneumonia. The medicine wasn't like today. So two of them died before I was born, and I had two sisters who were like two mothers around me. One was 9 years older than me, and one was 5 years older than me. I came a little later in life, so they were like my little toy, their little toy, and they would take care of me like they were mothers. So I didn't have any kind of fucked up background family-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, one of the reasons I got kicked out of school was that a principal once said what you're saying about the movies and about their parents and stuff like that. I broke his fucking jaw.
Mm-hmm.
So let's be careful with the questions.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I know you punched the principal. He said, look at what do you say, these grease balls? Look at this, how these people are.
He said the grease balls, again, that's what we use. We use those terms too, zips, grease balls. And our terminology towards them, grease balls or zips, they're people who were born and raised in Italy and they come over. We are Italians, we're the same thing, but we were born and raised here. We're more Americanized. But it's not an insult to us. I mean, it is in a way, but it really is not a way that we would really argue or fight about it. When he said those things, I didn't really care until he started referring to my family in a negative way. This is these grease balls. This is how they raise their kids. This is when I heard shit like that. Now you were putting down not me as a person, but my mother and my father. And I stepped up. I got up. I was already arrested over there for truancy. A truant officer caught us, and we went in. I wasn't really like arrested by the cops, but a truant officer brought us in because he caught us playing hooky. And I was a little drunk, and I was sitting there. And when I got up,
How old were you at this point?
oh, I'm a kid. Listen. My mother and father had to sign me out of schools. Before I was 16, I was thrown out.
Because you were drinking, though, even still. I was just trying to, because you said you were a little drunk. So you're like 15, 14 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I told him, I said, listen, it has nothing to do with my mother and father. You're referring to my family.
Mm-hmm.
Has nothing to do with them. I'm a bad kid. You caught me. Stay with me. And he said, he turned away from me like I was nothing and told somebody, see, these grease balls? And that's when I popped him.
Mm-hmm.
And I broke his jaw in a couple of places, and I was thrown out of that school. It was shallow, junior high. And I was thrown into what they call a 600 school. This is a school for all fuck ups.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I was a fuck up and I got thrown out. I first went to McKinley Junior High. I was thrown from shallow to McKinley, from McKinley to the 600 school. And from there, the Board of Education called my mother and father in. I was about 15 and a half. They said, he's not old enough for you to sign him out. It's on his 16th birthday. Come here and sign him out. And if you don't, we'll put him in reform school. So I stopped going to school when I was 15 and a half.
What did you, I mean, it seems like your parents must have been pretty upset because they were earning an honest living. They must have been like, what's your problem, right?
They were upset. My father never raised his hands to me. My mother would hit me with a broom or a mop or some fucking thing. I mean, that's how women are. But she's living. But you know, they were more brokenhearted.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that pain in them. They were, of course, every parent wants to see the best for their kid, and I obviously wasn't the best. I was dyslexic as well. It was very, very hard to see numbers and letters look different. So reading and learning was really, really hard. They didn't know what it was back then. So you were just stupid to them. Mm-hmm. So I had trouble all through school. I think my biggest problem wasn't parents. It wasn't even the neighborhood. It was being dyslexic. So later on, I hooked up in a gang, and that's another part of the problem of different mentality altogether. Stealing, robbing, stealing cars, hanging out. Didn't want to go to school no more.
Was the gang all Italian kids? Like, did different gangs, were they ethnically based or was it just?
I think most of them were Italian. I think we had one or two Irish guys who used to hang out with us. We even had a Puerto Rican guy who stood with us. This guy, Jimmy, was a Puerto Rican. But we didn't have any black guys with us. But the neighborhood was predominantly Italian growing up and Jewish, a little bit of Irish, not much, and very little blacks. So even the schools were more segregated back then. I think there was 2 or 3 black people in the whole school when I was in shallow junior high. This guy, his name was, I think, he had the same name as me, Sam. I think his name was Sam Witt. This guy used to catch a beating every day. I stepped to the plate one time and I said, Sam, why do you keep coming back here, bro? You're in fights every day and you're not winning any of the fights. He was a tough guy, but he kept getting jumped. So one day I came out with him and the guys asked me, what are you doing, Sam? I said, nothing. I'm walking with him. I said, I don't think what you're doing now is fair. You're hitting him with 2, 3 guys. Somebody want to step to the plate with him, go ahead. But I'm not going to allow, if he's jumping, I'm jumping in on his side. And he never got jumped again. We wound up friends until I got kicked out. And he was a good guy, but we didn't have any racial stuff or anything like that. There really wasn't that many black people in our neighborhood.
Mm. Do you think that if back in your day the schools had known how to treat learning disabilities and they didn't just think, oh, he's dumb and misbehaved, do you think that you could have turned out differently, like become a different sort of productive member of society?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
There's no question in my mind. I've been in business all my life. I'm not educated. I've been very successful with business and everything I've done. So I think could have, and I did come from good parents. So I didn't kill anybody until I was with the mafia. So I never did that. I thought of it once when union people came into, and I was already in a gang.
Yeah, tell me about this.
Union people came into my mother and father's shop. I was in the back putting plastic over the dresses and getting it ready for shipping the next morning. And these two big Irish guys came in with the union, and they were like threatening my father and telling them, non-union, you got to pay. And they were shaking him down or trying to shake him down. I was tempted to come out, but my father didn't look like it. He was bothered by it at all. So I didn't do nothing or say nothing. But they had told him when they left, when we come here tomorrow, you better have an envelope or we'll break your fucking legs and we'll shut you down. Now, that night I went back to the Rampers. This guy, Jerry Papin, was the leader of the Rampers. And I told him what happened.
This is the gang, yeah, the gang.
Yeah. And I wanted to get a couple of guys to come in. These were pretty big guys. And that we would go to work on them if they came in and did anything. And Jerry Papin lifted up his shirt and said, Sammy, take this. And he had a gun. He said, if they hit your father, shoot these motherfuckers. And give me a call, and we'll get rid of the bodies.
What did you do with bodies back then? Just throw them in the river?
And back then, we would just throw them in the street if we would have did it. But as long as they're not in the factory. But anyway, we were kids. We were stupid. So we do stupid things at that point. All these kids, they're young. So anyway, I went back. I never killed anybody. I was thinking about it. And I was in the same place when they came back the next day. And I was thinking, sweating, nervous. And I said, fuck it. He raises his hands. As soon as they raise their hands, I'm going to come out blazing. They didn't raise their hands. They came in with a card, giving them a card. Jerry, why didn't you tell us your gumbada is suvido? I knew this guy, Suvido, was my father's friend, skinny little old man. And it seemed like they were petrified that my father knew him or he was his gumbada.
Gumbada just means what? Like
they're born and raised in the same area in Sicily. And but I found out later, was a made guy from Sicily. And I think he got made in the United States as well. Because there's two different.
Made is like officially inducted into Cosa Nostra?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when they left, they actually gave him a card. If anybody bothers you, give us a ring. Nobody will bother you no more. And when I came out, I talked to my father. I said, what was that all about? And he says, I told you once, there's guys that are close with us, and guys you see on the corner. They're bad guys. They're our bad guys. We know them. I called my gumbada, told him the situation. He probably reached out, and they'll never bother us. That's what we do. They protect us. So I said, well, if that wouldn't happen, I was ready. What do you mean? I picked up my shirt, and there was the gun. My fucking father flipped out on me. It was the first time I think he almost hit me. Took the gun away from me. We don't do this. We're legitimate people. If we have trouble like this from people like that, we go to people like my gumbada, Savid. And that's when I found out later. I got the gun back. He gave me the gun back because it wasn't mine. It was Jerry Papin's gun. And but that really woke me up. How this small, skinny little guy had the power over these big, physically big guys to just back up like that. And I wondered, what kind of power is this? And later I found out he was a made guy in Italy and a made guy here in the United States. And it got my interest in the mafia at a very, very young age. But I wasn't all that interested. I went back to the gang and I just hung out and stuff. And I didn't want no part of the mafia. And but I understood their power now. I started understanding that my neighborhood was entrenched with the mafia. Guys on the corner hanging out like you see in Goodfellas, shooting crap in the street, police car parked there, guys leaning in there talking to the cops. The bar was there. They were all dressed up, diamond pinky rings, the whole 9 yard. So I started to understand the mafia and the power. And then later on, a guy was found in a trunk, another guy was found in a trunk, and it became very normal growing up. Oh my God, that's a mafia hit. That's this, that's that. So I started to become, I understood the mafia. But I had never had anybody in my personal family that was in the mafia. My sisters didn't go out with mafia guys. One of my brother-in-laws was a Navy guy who was in the Navy, and she went out with him. He became an engineer. My other brother-in-law later on in life, because that was the one who was 5 years older than me, was Eddie Garafola. He was really a plumber, but he knew people in the street. But he wasn't a mafia guy.
You got your own diamond pinky ring now. I was saying at dinner, like, that's new. That's new since I last saw you.
Yeah, this is, well, we make it a few bucks now.
Yeah.
So we get some bling bling on our fingers.
All right. So when you make it, does it just grow proportionately to how much your YouTube channel grows?
Yep. If I make more money, that bling bling will be a little bit more.
Like same setting, but the stone's bigger?
Yeah, maybe some grill with some.
You gonna get a grill?
Maybe a little grill with some diamonds in my mouth. Let's see what happens.
I heard those are hard to clean, but look, if you can just take out all your teeth now at age 74, 76, you could just put them all in the glass at night.
That's right.
Do they have those in stock, or do they have to dig up someone's grandfather to get you that?
No. I have a friend who owns a jewelry store. You know, the mafia, we have a friend of a friend of a friend always.
Yeah.
So I got a friend there, and they made this up for me. You know, I picked out what I wanted. I told them what I wanted. They showed me a few designs, and I said, this is nice. And they got the diamond. They made the setting, called me up, and gave it to me. So
nice.
It was good.
It definitely stands out. I noticed it yesterday at dinner, and I know
it's a nice little ring.
And I know that you got a certain way where you sit, right? We were having drinks yesterday or appetizers, and you one hand down, one hand over the top, so the pinky's on top, right? That's deliberate.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for the waitress. See the way she was looking at that diamond?
She thought she was getting a bigger tip.
Yeah.
So how did you end up joining? You saw the power. How did you end up joining?
And then I was going to be, very gracious at dinner because I knew you were picking up the check, and I was going to tell her, give her a $50 tip.
Yeah.
You would have probably threw a punch at me.
No. I love doing that kind of thing, actually. I do that a lot. She was good.
Yeah, she was cool, right?
But I gave her a nice big tip. Servers right now are...
They're busting their ass.
Yeah, and they're getting yelled at by idiots
every
day.
And they got to wear a mask and this and that. It's crazy. I feel for them.
Yeah, me too. It's not a great job, probably for most people when there isn't a pandemic. So yeah, now if you're in a fortunate place in life, the best thing you can do is tip those people what they're worth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or more than they're worth, because everybody else is screwing them over. So how did you end up joining? You saw the power. What shifted from that's not for me to what, let's give it a try.
In the gang, the ramp is, we were young again, and we were like, fuck the mafia. We knew who they were. I knew exactly who they were, where they were. We didn't fuck with them. They're dangerous. So that's what happens in the neighborhood. So it was like we had our own little gang and clique, and it was fuck the mafia. It's us against the world type of attitude. That was our saying. And when I hit 19 years old, I got drafted into the Army. The Vietnam War was raging on. It was 1964. So I got drafted. I went into the military for 2 years. Now, if you joined the military, it was a 3-year hookup. If you got drafted, it was only 2 years. We trained. I was in the infantry. Then from the infantry, I went into communications. The people who were behind the lines and getting communications from the guys in the front, so that they could shoot these bombs, and ahead of them, they're giving them information on what's going on. And then my job was to run to the front line, to talk to them or make sure the communications were right. As soon as they were right, I'd get the hell out of there and go back to the tent, go back further. So I was in there, and I was taught to kill there first. When I got out, I was 21. I went right back into the ramparts. But most of them had hooked up with the mafia. That bullshit, it's just us against the world. Most of them hooked up with somebody, Colombo family, Genovese family, Gambino family. And the neighborhood, you couldn't open up a card game or a club or a disco or anything without paying somebody something. So it was time to hook up. And a friend of mine, Tommy Spiro, his uncle, Shorty Spiro, was a heavyweight. They were in the first Gallo War. I knew who they were. And he wanted to see me. He made an appointment. I went and see him. And he had a good conversation with me. He was a good guy, ex-fighter, tough guy, pug, smashed nose. But he was good. He said, listen, Sammy, you got to hook up. You're a tough kid. You're in fights. You know what's going to happen. Someday you're going to hit the wrong guy. They're going to find you in the trunk.
Mm-hmm.
You come with me. You'll be part of a family. It's music to my ears. I'll never lie to you. I'll never backstab. Whatever I ask you to do, I've done, and I will do it with you. And I knew exactly what he was talking about. But I liked his pitch, and I shook his hand. And I was with, at 23, I was an associate in the Colombo family. So that's when I hooked up, at the age of 23.
I know you later there was some sort of nonsense conflict that was made up by somebody, and that's in your podcast, which we'll link in the show notes, so I won't have you tell that whole story. But you essentially end up switching to the Gambino family as a result to kind of keep was it Spiro's son? You were butting heads because he was jealous or something like that?
His brother.
His brother, okay.
He was trying to cut, it's like a rising star in the Colombo family. Carmine Persico was using me. So he was trying to cut me down, come with this bullshit story. I became so infuriated with that, I got a gun and I went to his house to kill him.
Right.
Now, this is my boss's brother. So this thing blew up. There was a major, major sit down between the Gambino family, because I knew a lot of them and I was talking with them on different things. I would scores, stick-ups with some of them. So they were sitting down for me. The Colombos recognized that I was right. So they didn't want to kill me for what I did. They said, you should have never went to the house. What were you going to do? Kill him right in front of his wife? As soon as he came to the door, I was going to kill him. I didn't give a fuck who he was.
So you didn't really think that through, though, at the time?
No. So, and I already did a piece of work. I killed someone in the Colombo family for them already. So they knew I wasn't a joke. They knew this was going to happen. And they didn't want to kill me because they said I was right. And they made a decision with the Gambino family. Carlo Gambino was talking for me, the bosses in the Colombo family. We can't keep them together. We got to split them up. What we'll do is we'll transfer him over to the Gambino family with this guy, Tato, who was a very powerful captain. I actually knew and grew up with his son, Charlie Boy. I never knew his father, Tato, but I knew of him. And I was going to be placed over there with him. And this whole thing would go away. I had to give my word I would never kill him. And I didn't. And he was told to stay away from me. And if he ever opened his mouth about me or did anything, they would kill him. So that was the decision.
That was the end of that then, right?
That was the end of it. And I was now in the Gambino family.
This might be an obvious question, but how are the families named, right? So obviously it's the founder's name or something like that, but if Paul Castellano was the boss, why is it still called the Gambino family and not the Castellano family? Why do they leave it as the older name? Because I know the families sometimes switch names, but I don't know when that happens versus when it doesn't.
Most of the times it doesn't happen because the guy, why would he want to take that kind of heat? Paul Castellano being...
Oh, yeah, good point.
Hey,
police, I'm in charge
Hey,
now.
I'm the boss. Yeah. I'm this. The whole news media knows it. The whole world knows it. Even if you got pinched, this is the boss. Everybody knows you're the boss. I mean, why would you want that label? Yeah, so they just left the labels that started earlier.
Yeah, you can tell I didn't think that one through. All right, so that's fine. How do the families differ then in sort of culture and types of crimes? Because I think you had mentioned in one interview that some families do way more violent stuff than others, and others are more racketeering than others.
Well, I'll give you an example. The Colombo family, for instance, I was in there. Everything was beat this guy up, shoot this guy, break his legs, do this, do that. And in the second part of the war with the gallows, I was with them. I wasn't with them when the first part. Everybody went to jail. It stopped. When they came back out, it started again. And Shorty had told me, go home and get your clothes. We're going to hit the mattresses. So I was in the second part of that war. So I was already hitting the mattresses, and Shorty and them explained to me, because I had a girlfriend, you're done with that. You're done with people owed you money. You're done with that. You're going to just live with us every single minute of every day. Eat, sleep, and shit with us. And I didn't even hardly understand that. Why? He said, they're a pack of wolves and they're watching us. When somebody strays, they're going to kill them. They're going to be there to kill them. And we're a pack of wolves doing the same thing against them. So the only way you could survive is you got to stay with us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you have a job, quit. I didn't have a job, obviously, but you're done with everything. You're going to live with us all the time. Forget the girls, forget everything. And I did. So it was a different lifestyle. When I got with the Gambino family, it was totally different. It was more into unions, open up businesses, scams, shakes, all kinds of different things, opening up businesses, bakeries, different things. So it was a whole different mindset. Not that they couldn't kill you or wouldn't kill you, they could, but violence to them set second. It's only as a last resort we kill. So the mentality was totally different.
Cosa Nostra means our thing, right?
Yes.
So what does that really mean, right? It's just kind of like that's the low key name for this is our private business.
No, our thing is Cosa Nostra is our thing. It's our thing. It's not a gang. It's not a different organization. It's our thing. The Cosa Nostra is our thing. That's the code we live by,
The code,
the
okay.
rules we live by. It's our thing. It doesn't pertain to the rest of the world.
So what does it mean to be then made? How does that happen? A lot of people know the term, but not necessarily what that entails. You know, a lot of people don't understand that there's sort of different rungs on the ladder.
Well, you're an associate. You don't join to get made. You don't ask to be made. Someone, like in my case, Tato, after years of being with him and all kinds of different situations, he proposes me to become a made member. Now, he's a captain. He brings this right up to the bosses. The books were closed from 1955 to 1975.
So that means no more made guys.
Nobody got made.
Why did they lock it down?
There was stories of people paid to get somebody made. They didn't really belong. They made mistakes. You have to earn what you are. Somebody's got to have that kind of an interest in you. And if you make somebody and you're making a major mistake, you can die for that. So they make sure that they know you, what you did, where you grew up, who your mother, father was, how you think, how you were when you got arrested. I mean, did you kill? Didn't you kill? For what reasons? All of these things. They take everything into consideration. So it opened up in 1975. I was still an associate, never even dreamt. I mean, I dreamt I would have loved to get made because a lot of these people were my idols, but I never thought it was possible for me to get made. I didn't have a family member. I had nothing. So Tato proposed me in 1976, and I finally went in and got made. One day he says, get dressed, suit, shirt, tie. We got to go to a meeting. No questions. We're going to go. And I went with his son was coming too. Me and his son got made the same day. And we went to this house. Eventually, there was 10 of us. Each guy went down one at a time. When he went down, he obviously got made. I was the last guy out of the 10 to go down. And I went down, and it was a little strange at first.
Yeah.
A guy went down, he never came back. I even joked with Charlie, but I kind of knew what was going on at that point. I didn't know when I first went there that day, but I started understanding. So I told Charlie, I said, bro, nobody comes back. Who goes downstairs? Nobody comes back. What do you think? He said, no, we'll be all right. The father must have told him what was going on. He didn't tell me. But anyway, I went down. There was Paul Castellano standing there. I went in. I stood by him, and I took the oath of
Paul
Cosa Nostra.
Castellano's the boss. Yeah.
He's the boss.
So you took the oath of Cosa Nostra. So what is that in short? What is it?
Long story short, they give you this saint. They take blood from you and put the blood on the saint. They put it in your hands, in between your hands, and they put it on fire. So you don't burn your hand much. You juggle it back and forth as it's burning. And they talk to you, and you repeat after them, and you take this oath of Cosa Nostra. At the end of that ceremony, you're a made guy in the mafia. And you go around the table, you meet everybody, and there's either a made guy or a captain or the boss, the underboss, the consigliere, then all the captains. And the guys who went down before me were sitting at that table. They were now made members. So I was made. They did a small little celebration, and then me and Tato and Charlie Boy went back to Tato's club, where there was other guys who were previously made, and they were waiting for us. They knew what was going on.
What are the rules then? Like you can't. There's ways you introduce each other and stuff like that, right?
Yes, you can't introduce yourself. You can't acknowledge. You can't say I'm a made guy. You can't introduce yourself. Even if I knew you were a made guy, there's somebody who has to be a made guy who was introduced properly to you. That guy is necessary for him to introduce you to me. Then we could accept, and only then could we accept that we're both made guys.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, if he ever made a mistake and introduced somebody and it was wrong, he'll die for that. So they're very tight about doing that. So you can't break that circle. And more or less, you might have known he's a made guy or he's a captain, and he's making that introduction. So he's already met you as a friend. He already knows me as a friend. Now he's introducing us as made guys, as a friend of ours. Now we know each other. We may know hundreds of guys who are made guys, but we can't acknowledge that until there's that third person who introduces us as a made guy.
And that's to avoid me accidentally telling somebody who's not made some sort of. You don't want any disclosure. You don't want any outsiders.
No, it's a secret society and a brotherhood. You don't want to break that code. So, and you can't break that code. I'll give you an example. I was in the Westchester Premier Theater, and a made guy who I was introduced to came over to me and said, "There's a guy here, Jimmy the Weasel. He's a boss now in California." I was in the Westchester Premier Theater with my wife. He says he wants me to introduce guys who are friends to him. And I said, "Listen, I'm here by myself with my wife. Not now. I don't want to meet him." And he went and told this guy. And the guy came back to me. I was sitting with my wife, and he was really rough with his language, talking to me. "Who the fuck you think you are?" I said, "Listen, bro, I'm sitting with my wife. You want to talk to me?" My wife says, "Sammy, what's going on?" "Nothing. Go by the bar and get a drink." And I said, "Listen, don't talk to me like that in front of my wife. You know who I am? I don't give a fuck who you are. I never met him as a friend. So I don't owe him no respect whatsoever." And he talked to me a little bit. "I'm a boss. I don't give a fuck what you are. Well, if you don't get the fuck away from me, keep talking like this, I'm going to knock your fucking teeth down your throat." And he walked away, super mad. The next day, I'm called in to Paul Castellano. Tato tells me he wants to meet me. "What'd you do?" "I had nothing. I had an argument last night with this guy, Jimmy the Weasel." So he took me to Paul Castellano. And Paul asked me. So he says, "You talk to him like that?" "Yeah." "Of course, I thought this is the code. I never met him. Somebody says he's a boss. I never met him as a friend. He's telling me he's a boss. He wants me to, he's telling me that I'm a made guy and I'm not supposed to respect that." And I didn't. And he was a little boisterous. And I told him I would knock his fucking face in. Paul said, "You did right. Fuck this guy. He knows the procedure. And he's breaking the procedure. A couple weeks or a month or two or whatever it was later, he said, he's not the fucking boss. Number one, he bullshitted people. And he was made, but he wasn't a boss. And he was actually a confidential informant.
Oh, wow.
So I heard that later on. And Paul, second time, told me, that day you did that, I wish you would have hit him. But, that's Monday quarterback. But you can't break into this. Here's a guy, somebody's telling me he's a boss. He can't tell me he's a boss. He can't tell me shit until somebody comes over and says, Sammy, he's amigo nostro, he's a friend of ours. Here's Jimmy the Weasel. He's a friend of ours. He's the representant or the boss of whatever fucking family he comes from. And he was from California, so I don't give a fuck who he was, really. I didn't want to meet him. I was with my wife. I just wanted to have dinner and
What
hang
movie
out.
were you watching?
No, it was a show where they had entertainers come and sing on stage and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I wondered if you remembered. Yeah. I thought maybe it was a movie that, because young theater for me is usually not live. Yeah. No, that's interesting. So that keeps everything confidential and keeps everything buttoned up.
Right.
So what are the ranks in the mafia, right? So I know you at the top were the underboss. There's the boss above that. Below that is what,
There's
captains?
a boss, an underboss, who's usually his right-hand man and his muscle. There's a gunzlier. A gunzlier is third in command. He's like a lawyer. He knows Cosa Nostra good. He could sit with other families to argue situations. He could even represent somebody in the family that's having a disagreement with the boss. If you're a lower level, the worst thing you could have is a disagreement with the boss. So he'll talk with the boss and maybe try to reason for him. He didn't mean what he said or this or that. He's like a peacemaker.
So it really is like a
type of guy.
lawyer.
He's like
role.
a lawyer,
Yeah.
more or less. He's a counselor, a gonzlia. Then below that, there's captains, Gabrigine or a captain. And each one of those captains has made guys under him, a crew of made guys and some associates. So I got made in 76. The following year, for Christmas, Tato took us all to a restaurant. We were in the back room. He excused everybody who wasn't a friend of ours. They were associates, good guys, but they can't be in that kind of a conversation. And he said, I never had an acting captain, an acting Gabrigine. He said, this year, I think it's time for me to put somebody as an acting captain. And there was a table, maybe about 8, 9 of us in that room. And I just got made a year ago. There was guys, older guys there who've been made, God knows how many years they've been made. And so he picked up the glass, and everybody picked up the glass, and he says, as of today, Sammy the Bull is my acting Gabrigine. Anytime you have anything and I'm not around, you can come to him first and then come to me. I may be in a hospital, I may be in prison, no matter where I am, or I may be out of town. You could talk to Sammy like you talk to me. Tell him what your situation is, and he'll bring it to me. Or make the appointment for you to come in. So I was totally shocked. Here I am.
So you didn't see that coming? You didn't know?
No, absolutely. I'm only made a year. So I'm still a pup. Still young. I was 31 when I got made. Now I'm 32 years old. These guys are in their 50s, 60s, some of them 70. I never saw that coming in a million years. His son is there.
Wow.
So he made me the acting Gabrigine, which was a tremendous honor to me that night. It was more of an honor later on. A couple of years went by. Maybe not a couple of years, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, the most. One of the guys in the crew came and said, Sammy, I know why Tato made this decision now. And he made the right decision. You're the right man for this job. And through that time, as before I knew him, he would tell me a lot of times he would want me in the back for different reasons. When there was a meeting of some sort, and he would tell me, just sit here and don't open your mouth. Once or twice I asked him, why do you want me in there? Is there a problem? No, he says, I got a feeling someday you're going to be sitting in my chair, and I want you to learn the life, which was a big compliment. Now he was doing that all the time with me. Mm-hmm. Whenever there was a problem, it's always, Sammy, I was the acting. Sammy, drive me to Paul's house. Drive me to this meeting. One time he was on the lam. He was in Florida. He made his sons get a good phone where we know it's not bugged. And he got me on the phone and he told me, he says, do me a big favor. There's a couple of things I want to ask you, not on the phone. My sons are going to give you an airline ticket. Get on the plane. Tommy Bellotti was with him. He said, Tommy will pick you up at the airport and I want to see you just for a day or two. And I did. I did that. So, I mean, I was up and coming and going more and more. I was into businesses now, unions and stuff like that. So I was just going up. My name and reputation, everybody thinks is because I was efficient as a hitman, which I was. But I was efficient in business with unions and businesses. I mean, history shows I had 5 or 6 construction companies going. I was running 3 or 4 different unions. And it showed that I became extremely powerful. And a lot of people think I became extremely powerful because I threatened people. It wasn't that way at all. It was just the opposite. I was fair, honest, open. I always tried to keep that in mind. Like Shorty said, I'm not a backstabber. And I treated people the right way. So people enjoyed sitting down with me at a sit down. Now I'm going to go with Sammy. That's great. He'll work out a good deal for us. And this is guys in other families. So my reputation that way was actually bringing me more strength, more notoriety than the killing part. So a lot of people think that, people are afraid of me because of the amount of people I'm involved in, the murders I'm involved in. But people didn't know that. They really weren't that afraid of me that way. Of course, they knew I was a tough guy and I must have been involved in a couple of murders. But to give you an example, even when I cooperated, I talked with the government. All right, Sammy, we know you're involved in the Castellano hit and probably a few others. How many hits are you involved in? I said, I'm involved in the Castellano hit. I'm involved in a few others, but all about.
Mhm.
I said, listen, I don't keep count. I don't know. Give us an approximate.
Did you really not keep count, or you just weren't going to volunteer that?
No. I really didn't keep count. It's not something I like doing. I know this maybe it's going to sound like bullshit to people, but it's not something I like. And I'll tell you why in a little bit. But anyway, I said approximately 18, 19, 20. I don't know. They were dumbfounded. So the government never realized how much of a hit guy I was. They were after me more for the unions and businesses and stuff like that. And they figured behind John, he was involved in a couple of hits, but he was the power behind the throne. So they really got excited about me in that way. They didn't know I was involved in that many murders. And like I'm saying, the whole neighborhood didn't know that. They know I was capable, but I got a bigger reputation on my legitimate end.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, now people say, yeah, it must have been easy. He's involved in 19 murders, so everybody was afraid of him. They didn't know. I didn't walk around and tell nobody, I didn't brag. I didn't do shit like that. So that wasn't my really rising star. It was business, unions, dealings, and how I dealt with people.
Yeah, how do people get paid in Cosa Nostra, right? There's no payroll, obviously. You're not getting a check from Paul Castellano or John Gotti, right? So revenue generation is, you said robbing and rackets. How does the union construction racket work? You told us about this at dinner like last year or 2 years ago, how this scheme worked to generate money.
When you're controlling the unions, you're controlling the big construction jobs, 50, 60, $70 million high-rise jobs and stuff like that. So you're having a lot of power. So they know that I'm controlling that kind of power. I could shut a job down in a blink of an eye. I could cause a strike to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of power. When they're building a high rise, they got this fence going around the entire project. The guy who stands at the fence that's open and allows the trucks to go in and out is a Teamster foreman. I control the Teamsters in the construction industry. So I could tell a Teamster foreman, you're a Teamster foreman, and I'm going to tell you, you know what you do? when the truck comes in, this is legal, ask for his license, check his lights, his brake lights, this, that. Make sure you sit with that guy for 20 minutes to a half hour, calling up, checking if his union dues are up to date. Do everything. 3 hours goes by. There's 50, 60 trucks lined up, can't get in.
Because they're supposed to go in, drop off the dirt or the pipes or the whatever, and back out.
Concrete,
Yeah.
all this stuff.
Like every 15 minutes.
Every 5 minutes. They got to be going in and out, in and out, in and out. They need that flow. So in 2 hours, whoever the major, I'll use Trump as an example. Trump is now calling Bobby Sasso, who's the head of the union. You're killing me. What are you doing? There's a guy down here, you can't get through the thing. Oh, no, he's doing his job. You know, what do you want me to do? Well, I'll talk to him and I'll try to straighten this out. By the way, the little guy used to call me the little guy. I'm little. The little guy was a little confused. He bid the drywall job, $7 million job. He didn't get it. Oh, listen, I got another project coming up. Let him come up and pick up the blueprints. That's sheer power. I'm getting that next job.
Mm-hmm.
He's never going to go through that again. When he answers like that, Bobby Sasso says, Sammy, the next job, he wants you to pick the blueprints up. So I go back to you. You're a young thug making $65,000 being there, and it's a half a no-show job. Just let the trucks go, have your coffee, joke with people, go home early, come in a little late. Don't worry about it. Just keep the fucking thing open. So now I tell you, listen, stop breaking balls with the trucks. Go back to drinking coffee, do X, Y, Z. It's back to normal.
Yeah.
So I make his life come back to normal.
Yeah, you control the bottleneck of the whole construction site. You've got,
right.
They're losing 50 grand or 100 grand a day or whatever it is.
Maybe more than that.
And so time is literally like time is money in this case, and you can make time slow down to a crawl.
Snail's pace.
Mm-hmm.
And I could actually, if I create a union strike, a problem, something blows up and all of a sudden people are there with pickets and there's a legitimate problem. All the unions, plumbers, carpenters, everybody, don't pass that picket line.
So nothing's getting done.
Nothing is getting done. Everybody's fucking complaining. And this little guy from Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, is making that happen or not happen. So that's sheer power. So now I'm doing my drywall work. Sometimes it's union, sometimes it's not union. Nobody's going to fuck with me. You got a container company. Bro, I'll go partners with you with a container. We could get some good work. I got connections to buy good containers. This happened. And how much do you make a year? Profit. About $100,000 a year. Okay. From this point on, put the $100,000 a year on the side. Anything you make above that $100,000, give me 25%. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good deal.
So at the end of the year, I come back to you. How'd we do? I made $400,000 this year. Well, that 100's on the side. So on the 300,000, 25% is 75,000. You got to give me. Boom! He gives it to you in 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He picked up 2.25, more than he normally does. So when the agents asked me at one conversation, what did you say and do to get all these people to do things? You threatened them. How? I said, I never threatened them. I said, and then they said, how come they never ratted on you? They're afraid of you. I said, no. Listen, why would they rat on me? Everybody around me made money. What is he going to come and tell you? I'm so mad at Sammy. I made $225,000 more than I would have normally made.
I'm retiring 10 years early. I'm so mad.
Yeah, I'm so fucking mad.
Yeah.
And no, he doesn't threaten me. I get tickets when I'm going on vacation with my wife. The Teamster foremans, every time there's a move, I throw a bone. So you're making you're a street thug. You're making $65,000 a year. as a Teamster foreman, keep your nose clean and listen to what we tell you. And he's happy as a pig in shit. Every once in a while, we make a score because a contractor, after a while, will say, Sammy, give me a good Teamster foreman. Yeah, okay. That's 100,000. You could tax some onto my contract, and I'll get the money, and I pay Bobby Sasso. End result, I come down to you, this little street dog who makes things happen. I tell him, hey, bro, this year go on vacation for you and your wife. Put this 5,000 in your pocket. Enjoy it. You, your wife, and your kids go on vacation. They love me.
Mm-hmm.
Making 65,000 is another $5,000 bonus. That don't happen once. That happens multiple times. I'm fair, honest with everything. There is nobody ratting. There is nobody complaining. There's an army of people who want to be around me. And that's business. When you're honest, open, sincere, and good with people, nothing's going to go wrong for you. It's when you're a piece of shit, go in there, threatening people, give me the job, I'll kill you, and you're going to get trouble. So I told the government, that's why they never ratted on me. Why should they? Did maybe he had an argument with his wife when he was on vacation that I paid for? What the fuck is the guy? Why would he tell you anything?
Mm-hmm.
So
it's the carrot, not the stick. Yeah.
It's the carrot, not the stick. I mean, they always knew that I was capable. I had the back stick in my back pocket. They knew that. But that wasn't the motivation for people to be around me.
Right.
I believe you can threaten people once or twice. They can't wait to get the fuck away from you. If you betray people, nobody wants to do business with you. If you're a liar, a fake, a phony, who the fuck wants to be with you? I know I don't want to be with people like that. So I'm sure if I was like that, they don't want to be close to me. I understand that. I understand business and I understand human nature. So
how much do mobsters make each year if they're doing it right? I know it's of course different for everybody, but like what's a good take for somebody who knows what they're doing?
There's all different kinds of things that they do. There's different numbers. There's no such thing as one thing. If you're the boss of the family, you're getting it from so many different people. Every captain is kicking up. So he kicks up. So if there's like at one point in our family, the Gambino family, there was 21 captains. Now, who's bringing him 5,000? Who's bringing him 50,000? I have no idea. But the numbers are enormous. So the higher you're up on the ladder, because everything in the mob goes up. An associate gives to the main guy a piece of something. If he's got 10 associates, 10 guys are giving him. He's given a piece of that whole pie to the captain. The captain's getting it for 5, 6, 8 wise guys, and maybe some associates. A piece of that is going up to the administration. The boss, the underboss goes there. But it's to the boss. It's up to the boss what he wants to give to the underboss or consigliere. It doesn't have to be a split. It doesn't have to be it's whatever he wants. But none of them are broke because all of them had this tremendous life. So they all when they get up that high, they're all pretty wealthy. So
what do you think the boss was making at any given point? Or would you share how much you made in a good year?
Well, the last year before I got pinched, I would go home once a week. I would do all my books, who owed me money. I had $1.5 million in the street, Shylock money. So I would
like loans out to other people.
Loans and stuff. So what I did is every week I would take how much I had in cash. And I would say, okay, this much is went to these people, I paid them. This much I did for partying, this much I did with this. Now, what was I left with? I was left with approximately $45,000 in cash a week, almost on a steady diet. So I could honestly say I was making about $45,000 a week in cash on a steady diet. And my legitimate businesses, the last year when I filed $750,000 was my legitimate earnings. And so if you take all those numbers and put them together, I was making a lot of money.
Yeah, so it's millions of dollars a year. And is this 1980s money?
I got pinched in 90. So this is in the 80s, upper 80s, because I wasn't doing that. But upper 80s, 90. I went away December in 90. So, and that was my last tax thing I paid.
Hey, if you like what you're hearing and seeing, check out the Jordan Harbinger Show podcast feed. There's a lot more just like this. You can find the Jordan Harbinger Show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, back to the show. Is the extortion racket that you see in movies from the mafia authentic, where you go to a business and you say, hey, give me 10%, or is that some old thing?
No, there's guys, who do that. Listen, there was 5 families.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about maybe 4,000 made guys, God knows how many associates. So there's guys all over the place. Some guys are real thugs or real idiots and do things like that. And I don't want to call them an idiot, but because they do that. But some people do that, some people don't. I don't find that. I find if you're going to threaten people and do this kind of shit, you're going to jail. Sooner or later, somebody's going to give you up.
Everybody hates you. The whole neighborhood hates you.
Everybody hates you, and sooner or later, you're going to scare somebody to death with, I'll kill you in front of your wife and kids. There was just this pinch on the Colombo family, and I heard it on the news and read it in the paper. One guy wanted some of that money out of the union benefit fund or whatever, and he tells the guy, you don't give me that money, I'll kill you in front of your wife and kids. Now, a legitimate guy, may turn around, you may scare him personally, but when you're involved in saying, I'll kill you in front of your wife and your kids, that guy's liable to go to the fucking feds in 2 seconds.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And you can't blame him. Don't call him a fucking rat. You're a fucking imbecile. You created that monster. So I never did that. Maybe as a kid I was a thug a little bit, but that wasn't my mentality.
It seems like small money too. Like you get collected from 20 restaurants.
And one thing that really bothered me about that, I always remember my father being threatened with them fucking union guys.
Exactly.
And my father killed himself for us, working fucking not 40 hours a week, 60, 65 hours. And my mother too, sewing clothes as seamstress. You're going to go in there and threaten them? Right. And that always stuck in my head. So I said, I'll never do that. Never.
Did your wife know that you were a gangster? She must have had a clue, but how much did she know?
She knew nothing because I told her nothing. But she had an uncle who was in the mafia, Bayonne Joe. I think he was a captain. Most of the time he was in prison. I never met him. But she knew a little bit coming from that neighborhood, but I never discussed. I lived 2 lives. One with my wife and my kids, and one in the street. Now they knew they're not idiots. And I don't want people to think they're idiots, but they knew, but I never had any kind of conversation. And part of my thinking is that if it all caves in, they can go to my wife or my kids and they could legitimately say, I don't know. So anytime she asked me a question, I told her, no. I told you, don't ask me questions. You can ask me questions about almost anything. Don't ask me questions about anything that happens. I told my wife right before the Castellano thing, I'm going to go on the lam. I'm going to go somewhere. Where? I can't tell you. When are you coming back? I can't tell you. I may never come back. You'll be all right. Stay in the house. Eddie, our brother-in-law, will come and see you. Big Louie, who's captain, he was very close with me. He'll come around. You'll be okay. Don't believe anything you hear or see in a newspaper, and don't ask no questions. Take care of the kids. And I gave her a hug and a kiss, and I walked out. That was my relationship with my wife. You want to talk about the kids, who didn't go to school, or this or that, or our life, or whatever, we talk about that. You want to talk about parties, invited, or this or that, But she understood. She just understood that I'm not going to answer questions.
Did she grow up around all this? So was this new?
The whole neighborhood knew what was what.
Yeah.
I heard my wife one time had an argument with her sister. Her sister said, well, we didn't know all that. Come on, we used to go by the 19th hole. We always used to see those guys there. We knew what it was. but we didn't know the facts. But we knew them. We see them with their pinky rings and their suits, and we knew their names, and we knew not to fuck with them. Come on. But of course, we didn't know the facts. You could say that. Of course, you really didn't. But we knew what time it was.
Especially if you grew up in a neighborhood and it's body in a trunk, body in a trunk, body in the river, body in a trunk.
Yeah,
It's obviously
in
related.
the 70s, at least, maybe I'll go back to the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It was like the Wild West days. You know, a lot of times it's the same. Somebody just found somebody in the trunk. Really? Who is it? Didn't even fucking phase me. That's not that abnormal. Oh, God, who's that? Who was it? Well, Joe Blow. Really? Nah, shame. He wasn't a bad guy. And go right back to drinking coffee and because it was you were numb to this. That's what happened.
What do you think your dad would say if he knew that you ended up, the underboss of the Gambino family? I assume he wasn't around at that point.
No,
No.
no. He was around when I got made and when I was an acting captain. But no, and he was older by that time. He was sick as well. So I don't think he never even asked or anything like that. Once or twice he'll ask me, what are you doing? You with them? No, don't worry about it. Period. The conversation would never go there,
How would you react if your son was like, Dad, I want to join. It looks amazing. I saw Goodfellas or whatever. Or he just said, hey, I want to make money. I know you make money. Tell me, let's do this. What would you tell your son?
No, absolutely no. I would never. I didn't put my son into life in any way, shape, or form. My answer would be no. I would tell him. People want me to talk to kids, to talk to them and tell them, stay away from life, do this, do that. I tell, fuck that. I'm not doing that. Here's what I tell them for advice. Want my advice? You want to be me? Want to make money? Do what the fuck you want. Shoot guys, do whatever the fuck you want. But I will tell you, I got 22 years of my life in prison. You're going to shoot one of your friends, maybe your best friend. They're going to shoot you. You're going to do ugly fucking things. You're going to have the government on your back 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until your ass is in prison. If that's what you want to be me? Go ahead, enjoy it. Do what the fuck you want. I'm not going to tell somebody, don't do it. I'm telling you, do what the fuck you want. It's your life. You want to throw it away? Go ahead. And if you don't think I threw it away, then watch when you go to prison, when people tell you when to take a shit, when to eat, when to go to bed, when to get up. Watch how much you're going to enjoy that. But that's what you're going to enjoy.
You spent, how many years were you in the life versus how many years you spent in prison? It's almost like 50-50, right? If you don't count the gang days when you were younger.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. Almost. Maybe a little less. But 22 years of my life in prison. I did 6.5 fucking years in the hole starting my prison time. And I tell people to that, go in your bedroom, in your house, bring a nice portable TV. We'll feed you in your bedroom. Do it for 6 weeks. Tell me how you feel. I did it for 6.5 years. And it's not, I did it for 6.5 years. There's a lot of fucking guys who did that. So that's what you got to look forward to. Do it in your bedroom for 6 weeks. You or anybody. Go in your bedroom for 6.5 weeks and don't come out. See if it don't drive you fucking nuts after a while. So that's my advice to kids. You want to be me? Go ahead. Enjoy it. Enjoy what's about to happen in your life. But do it. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. You're not my kid. Do what the fuck you want to do. If it's my kid, I would tell him the same thing. That's what you want? That's what's going to happen.
If you had a do-over, would you just get a construction job and just be like, none of this violence, none of this mob shit for me? What do you think you'd do?
I don't know. It's Monday quarterback, that question.
Yeah.
And I've been asked that a lot of times. There's a lot of things, anybody who says, you wouldn't do something different is probably full of shit, because everybody, no matter how legitimate, no matter how something, you may have an argument with your wife and you may say something, and 3 months later, you may say to yourself, I wish I didn't say that. I was
course.
mad. I was pissed off.
But this is a bit like more of your choice of career path, you know?
Yeah. But I really don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
Here's the question. If you weren't dyslexic, what would you do? I don't know. I know I have capabilities of learning. I'm not stupid. I'm just dyslexic. I gave a great example once. I gave somebody a paragraph. It was in writing, print, nice, beautiful. And I said, read that. And the person read it. Yeah, I got it. I got it. You're going to ask me a question? No, I'm not going to ask you nothing. I got a blank piece of paper and I scribbled on it.
Just draw lines on it.
Just drew lines, scribbling. And I said, read that. So they looked at me and says, I can't read that. It's scribbling. I said, you see that? The thing you can't read? That's the one, this printed thing, that's what that looks like to me. That's being dyslexic. So the way you can't read that, I can't read this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you have an interest in that, you should help people who have it. They do help people who
Yeah, that's
have
what my
it
mom
now.
does. She's was a special ed teacher.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's great. But back in the day, you could ask your mom. They didn't know what the fuck it was. They didn't do it.
She's your age. They didn't
Yeah.
really, I mean,
No, they didn't have it. They didn't know what it was.
yeah.
So
They said these are the smart kids and these are the dumb kids.
right, you
And then
can
they-
get
yeah.
Instead of going from the second grade to the third, you can go right to the fourth. Or I got left back in the fourth grade. It was humiliating. I got left back in the seventh grade again. School was done, finished. But I have a great memory for details and things when you're talking to me about things that happened 40 years ago. Maybe there's something about that. I could see something or hear something and I could remember it and I could learn. So you're not stupid. It's just that you have this disability in learning. It's a learning disability. And it's a shame because a lot of people have it. Now it's out of the shadows and a lot of people know it. And a lot of those people, I find that some people tell me I'm dyslexic. Really? The guy's like a fucking great artist.
Yeah, sure.
Fucking great. So he's good in other areas of life. So I don't know, but I think that's what hurt me right in the beginning.
I mean, Richard Branson is dyslexic. You know who that is?
Yeah. A guy, billionaire.
There's a lot of famous dyslexic people.
Yeah. There's a lot of them, and they have they found a different way to learn.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you can catch that early in life with your kids, whoever's listening to this, God knows what your kid could actually be. But he's going to be handicapped in certain areas. Reading, numbers. A 3 used to look like an 8. Every time I used to get it wrong. Everybody would laugh. There was a 3. What is that number? 8. And everybody would laugh. After a while, they'd show me something that looked like a 3 to me. I was laughed at so many times. I would say an 8. Not that it looked like an 8, but I was wrong so many times.
Yeah.
I kind of got it. This fucking 3 is not a 3, it's an 8. And I would say 8. And that's right, Sammy. That's very good.
It's like looking at Chinese then.
Yeah. It is, actually. And there's all different degrees of it. So, mine was numbers, letters. Yeah, I can read letters now, but after a while, my eyes onto the second chapter or whatever it may be, everything is starting to get really blurry to me. So I guess, and I put the book down.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done all that time in prison. I read a lot in prison, a lot of stories. But I would read a chapter maybe or something, and it would get blurry. I put it back down. Then I do it. Sometimes I had to read it again to really get it.
To let it sink in.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the people you killed, they broke the rules. What type of rules? Not kicking up money to the boss, for example, or what else?
No, that's not a rule. No.
That's just a cultural thing?
Well, it's not anything. You're supposed to kick up. If you're greedy or selfish, or you're supposed to kick up because goes in also, like a lot of people told me I was running the Teamsters under John Gotti. And I said, he gave me 20%. So to run it. and he got 80%. But it belongs to the family, and it belongs to the boss. So the agents asked me, didn't that bother you? No. Why would it bother me? He owns this, family and him, not me. So he gets 800,000 out of the million, and I got 200,000. You think I should be mad at him that I was put in position to earn 200,000? Well, it's nothing. Supposing you were Trump's son-in-law, and he put you somewhere, and you were making 500,000. He made 10 million, 20 million.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be mad or jealous that he gave you a fucking position that you earned 500,000?
Right.
If you are jealous or mad, then you're a jerk off. I'm not a jerk off. It was a good job. I made 200,000 a year and other powers that it gave me. So no, I wasn't mad. So it all depends on how you look at things, I guess.
What were the rules then that got people killed? You mentioned you're killing people that you love, killing your friends. They broke the rules, so they had to go. What kind of rules are we talking about?
You can't raise your hands to another friend of ours, another main guy.
So no fighting. That's interesting. Okay.
You can't raise your hands. The first guy who threw a punch, the guy could defend himself, and if he can kill you, kill you. And if that don't happen, and they know that you raised your hands first to a friend of ours, then you could be killed for that. Going with somebody's wife or kids is the death penalty. Me and you are in the mafia. You're my brother. Your wife is my sister-in-law. Your kids are my nieces and nephews.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way we have to look at it. Now, if you violate that in any way, I don't care if your wife is the biggest pig in the world and she's coming off to me. There's no excuse for this. I don't care. You have to be man enough to walk away from that. And as a man, I understand men, we like women, but there's a limit. So you cross that line, you're supposed to get killed for that. So most of the times you can and you will. But sometimes you might be able to escape it for whatever reason, because every situation is different. Your daughter, I see your daughter in a bar. She don't know me, but I know who she is. She's drinking. She's maybe 18, 19. She's a little bit out of order. Maybe some guy is slobbering all around her. I come over and get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Go away. To the guy. And her, sweetheart, I'm going to make somebody take you home. You're a little drunk. Who are you? I'm my father's friend. Forget about who I am. Let's get out of the bar. And you, bartender, no more drinks for her. Stop. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's my niece. I value that. Now, your niece at 23 now, she's really sexy and beautiful. Maybe she's a turn on for me a little bit. I make that fucking blunder and look at her in that way, I could go and should go. So there's a lot of things. Then there's just, street things that come up, but there's violations in the mafia that are death penalty. Now, we use each other like, we don't go looking for guys and shooting them out. This isn't a gang.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go, you broke the rules. I'm being given an order to whack you, take you out. Now, maybe Joe Blow is going to be the shooter, but me and you are friends. I'm going to be the guy to bring you into this meeting or wherever. You trust me. We're not cowboys. We're going to make this hit real easy. You're going to come into this meeting with me, hey, and Joe Blow's going to shoot you.
Right. It's not a car bomb, or you're not burning my house down.
And that's another rule. Yeah. We're not supposed to use car bombs. Like they do that in Italy and other places. We're against that because you can kill innocent people. We're not into that. We're worried about killing innocent people. We're worried about what we're supposed to be. Men of honor. That's not very honorable. If I kill you and I kill a woman and a child who got in the car with you or was by the fucking thing, no drive-by shootings. Shoot them in the motherfucking head. That's your target, not some kid, not some woman. So there's rules of how we kill. And unfortunately, that order from the boss, and if you disrespect an order from the boss, you die.
But you can't refuse an order at all, because then you're just as guilty of breaking a rule, and then somebody else just has to kill you too. And then that same person you were supposed to kill is dead anyway.
Yeah, you
So it
can't
doesn't matter.
stop the hit. You could go do. A boss is telling me to kill you. I could talk to the boss and say, please, let me talk to you. There's a situation. I grew up with him. What he did, I could talk to him, blah, 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 and I could try to straighten this thing.
Mhm.
If the boss tells me, Sammy, no good, take him out. And use this guy or that guy. I don't care what you use. Get him out. Take him out. He can even tell me to get rid of the body. He could tell me a lot of things. Put him in the trunk, throw him in the street. Whatever the thing is. If I disobey his order, I go. And you're going anyway.
Yeah. So it doesn't even, it's like, you might as well do it, because if you like me, you can be like, all right, I'm going to make sure he's dead. I'm going to make sure he's not drowning in his lung fluid or
I'm going to
freezing
make
to
it
death
fast
outside.
for
Yeah.
you. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
That's the way I can help you, is make it super fucking fast. You won't even know what the fuck hit you. If I had to die tomorrow morning, I would choose that way, getting shot right in the fucking head.
Mhm.
It's especially with a decent sized caliber gun, you wouldn't even know what hit you. I've seen it many times. You wouldn't even know what hit you. It's the fastest way to die, in my opinion. But what really gets to me in this thing is that as much as I like you or love you, oh, you know the rules as well as I did. Look at what the fuck you did. I mean, you knew this. And I blame you because you knew I would probably be the schmuck that has to bring you in. You felt like killing yourself. Why didn't you just go hang yourself some fucking where? You knew what this was going to bring. And that happens a lot. A guy be sick. Oh my God, how did he do this? He's doing it to himself.
Right.
That's how we look at it. You did this to yourself, bro. It's not, I woke up this morning, I want to kill you. It's not that we don't kill for money. So it's not like I want to kill you and take over your business or take your money.
Mhm.
If two fucks about your business or your money. You know, if we're friends, I hope you are rich and I hope you are powerful, because we're probably going to be helping each other that way. So, and that we do a lot. So there's no reason for the money or the greed. Some assholes will do that, but there's assholes in every fucking walk of life. Cops, politicians, there's all kinds of fucking assholes in all walks of life. And the mafia is not excluded from that either. But if a guy is, you're doing this for money, either you're out of your mind, then there's a line with killing. Some people in our life, like Roy DeMeo and people like that, they cross the line to us. He became a serial killer. He's killing people, innocent people, for no fucking reason now, or stupid reasons. And we killed him.
To keep to show
Because
that
you
that's not
became a serial killer, you don't deserve to fucking live, whether you're a May guy or not. We don't do things like that. You, if you're a child molester and you're a May guy, you're gonna go if we find out.
Mhm.
If you're a rapist, you should go. There's things that were questionable and guys got just put on the back burner. Not enough maybe to kill the guy, but put on the back burner. But if you're a full-blown child molester or a rapist
Mhm.
or a serial killer, we're going to kill you. That's not us. So whether you're in our life or out of our life, we will kill you. If you're coming in our neighborhood and you have those traits, we'll kill you, because the neighborhood is our neighborhood, our people. We protect it.
Did it bother you when you had to kill people, or did you feel like stress or anxiety, remorse?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, and I said this in my podcast, I said this many times, I think a piece of me died on every one of those murders. Almost every one of those murders. Some of them I didn't really care. I'll be honest. I'm not going to say but a good part of them, a piece of me died with every one of them. It's a scar in my body. I feel it. When I talk about it in my podcast, maybe I'm getting old. I actually become emotional with it. It almost brings me to tears. It just rips at me. It's like I open up that scar when I start talking about it, and I become emotional, which I don't really want to. I'm not a person who normally cries, but it brings me close. Maybe it's the old age. I don't know what the fuck it is, but those scars are buried, and I open them up when I talk about these things.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. I'm not going to make you go through that. I was just wondering, because some people will think, okay, well, you're a sociopath, you killed all these people, and you don't even care. But it sounds like that's not the case. I know you think a lot, or you had to think a lot anyway, about planning a hit, how you're going to deal with it, because it was your job for a long time. When you're planning someone's murder, what are you taking into consideration? Is it like you got to have a way to get rid of the body, for example, but what else is there that the average person might not think of? Make sure they don't suffer, that kind of thing.
Well, that's not my first thought, is not make them suffer, to be honest. Planning of a hit is that when I get a hit on someone, everything in my life stops. I get blinders on. The only thing on my mind and the only thing I could see is you. I now start researching in my own mind. What do you do every day? Where do you go every day? Who do you meet with? If you're married, do you have a girlfriend on a sneak? Do you have a gym that you go to every day? Or all of these things. I'm researching for the place that I'm going to kill you. I get other guys in different positions. A crash car, backup shooters. So you're going to come in here. You have that door to run out. You have that door to run out. There's going to be people there. You can't get out. I'm going to make sure you can't get out. I have a start button, no stop button until you're dead. I don't think about business. I don't think about money. I don't think about family. I don't think about getting laid. I don't think about nothing but you. The only thing that makes me stop thinking about you is when you're dead. The hit is over. And I go back about into my life. And this hit is behind me.
What's the timeline? Like if you get an assignment, is it like the guy's gone in 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, or it's flexible?
I don't think there's any timeline. You got to hit. You got to take all the possibilities. I don't want to hurt any legitimate people in the process of killing you. I mean, if I'll give you an example. One guy, we were going to kill him. He was hard to get. And I made an appointment in a lawyer's office. I was going to meet him in the lawyer's office and be in a conference room talking to him, just like I'm talking to you. 2, 3 guys would come in with ski masks, screaming to people, "Get down, get down." I'd get down, you'd get down. They'd blow your fucking head off and leave me. I could stay there. The cops would come. We were talking about business. Fuckaweno. People came in with ski masks and they killed him. I don't know what happened. And that's what the people in the office would say. And we couldn't get him, so that's the only place we could have got him. So I was going to do it. And make sure you don't hurt the woman at the front desk and don't hurt nobody, whatever. So then the guy came back. He says, he's going to come. There's one problem. Well, he's going to come with his daughter, who's a lawyer. So she's going to come with him to this meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Good. Canceled the whole thing. And I canceled it. So that's what I do as a hit guy.
Because you didn't want to kill him in front of his daughter.
I'm not going to kill him in front of her or in front of her. That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's off. So I will continue working on you in different ways. And that's what goes through the mind of a hit guy. Some jerk off, maybe he'll do it in front of the daughter. Maybe he'll shoot the daughter too. I don't know what he'll do.
Yeah.
But a true hit guy plans a hit, makes sure it works properly, and takes into consideration every option that could happen and how are you going to defend it. Cops come. There's a guy in a car with a license, legitimate car. You're going with your car. Cops are right behind you. As soon as he can, he crashes into the cop car, and you can go. A block car. Turn down a small block. That Black car is waiting for him. He sees him. He sees the cops coming. He goes right behind him. Halfway down the block, he stops his car. He's having trouble with the car. The cops come out. Move that car. Move that car. I can't move it. It's stopped. It's stuck. And he's got his license. He's a legitimate guy. There's different things a hit guy will do. It's not only to kill the person. It's how he can't get away. It's how you're going to block and protect the shooters, whoever the shooters are. So a lot of people say, you were part of that hit and you didn't pull the trigger. Of course I didn't pull the trigger. It doesn't matter who pulls the fucking trigger. Any moron can pull a trigger. But it's who plans the hit, who makes the whole thing happen. Now, I might be the shooter, I might not be the shooter. In the Castellano hit, I wasn't the shooter. But I planned the whole thing. They came to me to plan the whole thing.
It's like a military operation.
Yes, CIA, military, I don't care what kind of, they have operations and they plan these things and do them. I would do that in my head in 2 seconds flat. Just like I said, I'm talking to you. I'm pointing to that door. I'm pointing to that door. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm talking to you. Of course, I don't mean anything by it. But in my mind, I'm planning this hit. Right now, if I wanted to hit you, I could hit you. Zaza would come across with a shotgun. You're not even looking at her. She would shoot you. Mm-hmm. You don't expect it from her because she's a girl. I don't use girls.
I might expect it from her, but you're right. Your point is well taken. Yeah, no, this all makes sense. It's like a second nature. Is it something you still sort of think about? Not killing people, but is it still like a background operation in your head after all these years? Because
it's just a way of life for me. I get an apartment. When I get an apartment and where I'm going to live, I look at everything. I look at myself as the target, and I go outside and I look. Where would I take myself out from in my mind as being a hit guy? Yeah, I don't like that alley, or I don't like this. This should be lit, or this is where I'm going to be watching when I do walk out or get in or do this or that. I can't even get rid of that. That's in my head. Now, I do it subconsciously. Mainly, I don't purposely get up in the morning, hey, I'm going to look at this. It's subconsciously I do it. When I go into a restaurant, where I sit subconsciously, I want to see what's coming in, what's happening. I don't sit with my back to a certain point. I immediately would tell my wife, I'd like to turn around and could I sit there and do this? Did I juggle a little bit when we walked in?
For dinner the other night? No, actually. I was wondering if you were going to, but we sat on the other... Wait, actually, I was sat on the other side, and you were like, I'm going to sit in here. But some of that was a function of our director not fitting into the table, names mentioned.
Yes.
Some of that was logistics.
Two of
them were big enough.
Yeah.
They couldn't fit in.
There's a little back room, if you took notice, in the back of that restaurant.
Yeah, there was.
And with a curtain over it, right? Mm-hmm. That's almost it would be better to sit on that side to look at the front, right?
Right.
But I don't know who's behind that curtain.
Right.
So I'd rather sit where I was sitting because I could see that curtain. If somebody or something was coming in, now you got to come through 50 people.
Right.
You don't think they'd be screaming this, that, or whatever's fucking going on? Mm-hmm. I would know, just even where I was sitting. Normally I sit there if there wasn't, but that curtain, I'm not too crazy about that curtain.
Yeah, there was a curtain there. That's interesting. I wondered if you were going to switch sides, and you did actually. Yeah, that's funny.
We talked about the seating, but
yeah, we did.
We were trapped into.
Right. Yeah, we had a different logistical situation.
So you got to make considerations for that.
Yeah, for people.
And once in a while, you got to drop the bob shit and sit where you got to sit.
That's right.
If it happens, it happens.
Yeah, for people who are wondering what we're talking about, we sat with a couple big guys the table was attached to the wall, and we had limited options of where we could sit. Otherwise, we were going to have them pried out of there with the jaws of life after dinner. But they're good people, so we made do. All right, I'm going to skip some of the killing the boss, Paul Castellano, Gotti, that stuff you cover in your podcast, which we'll link in the show notes. You've told those stories a million times. I'm not going to ask you that same stuff again. I will though. Let's see. Hold on. I am curious about the witness protection program because not many people have asked about that. What is that like? Obviously you testify and they're like, okay, we got to hide you now because somebody's going to come and pop you.
I did it for 8 months. I had a lot of money. I didn't want to go into it. I got a very short sentence, 5 years on the first time I was in prison. They were begging me to go in because the government would look bad if you don't go in. And come on, let us, I did it. I did it for 8 months. I didn't like it at all. Some people like it. I didn't like it. You change your name. There's a million restrictions. You can't talk to anybody in the past, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's anybody. That's just not my nature. I don't like that. There was 8,000,000 rules. I didn't like any of that shit. I'm out of prison. I understand. I only did 5 years. It's a skid bit, but I don't want to be told what to do and how to do it every fucking minute of every day, and where to go and who not to talk to. I'm a personable person, believe it or not. I talk to every fucking body. I mean, I don't like hiding. It's just, I might as well go in the fucking boonies somewhere in a nice little cabin and with a dog and go hunting, fishing. If you really want me to fucking bunk in, I'll do that. But I'm not worried about dying, especially now at my age. I worry more about cancer, coronavirus. There's all these bullshit things when you get older. I'm not worried about dying with a gun. Like I said, it's probably the best way to go. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think the mafia right now understands what I'm doing. I'm on a fucking podcast. I think half the world is listening to me. And I think that there's so many people who cooperated. There's so many tapes and FBI and the NYPD, Organized Crime Strike Force. Everybody knows exactly what happened, what John did. All my life I've been busted. I never cooperated. I didn't look at it as cooperating. I walked away from him. I walked away from the life, and I switched sides and did what I had to do. And people know it, so I don't think there's that many people who are mad at me. A lot of the murders that I was involved in, and a lot of people say I killed them all. I didn't. I'm part of the murder. I didn't kill them all, and I never woke up in the morning wanting to kill somebody. It just wasn't my thing. I'm a little more friendly than that. I mean, so I don't know. I don't even know what the fuck I was answering or what I was saying.
Well, I was just asking about the witness protection program. You answered the next question, which was it was torture to hide and be away from everybody.
Family and everything. It's just
because when Richard was like, "Hey, there's this guy you should have on your podcast, Sammy the Bull Gravano," I was like, "You're getting played, man. This guy's not just running around having dinner with us at Olive Garden, right? Like, give me a break." And then I researched it, and I was like, "Okay, maybe it seems like he left the WITSEC program, witness protection program." Because I just thought, oh, this guy. I'm like, Richard, come on, man, be smart. This is some like dude who put on a hat and sunglasses and is bought a pinky ring at a flea market and is now telling you he's a mobster. Like, get smarter. But turns out I was surprised to find that it was real. That's not a flea market pinky ring either. You can see it sparkling in our lighting.
Richie and I. That's a funny story. I'm glad you brought that up. Richie and I came here to rent an office right next to his office for my son. And I was waiting for my son and the real estate guy, and there's a sign on his door, a window, and he has this studio in here and this and that and the other thing. And I knocked on his door.
Yeah, that's what he said.
And I walked in. I said, well, you have a studio? Of course, I'm thinking of doing some Hollywood bullshit way back then.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yeah, come on in. He was very sociable. Came in, we walked around, he showed me his whole place and so on and so forth. I said, may do things with Hollywood. Maybe we can talk about things, filming and recording and stuff. He's obviously very good at it. So but it was a lucky thing for me, and I think for him. We became really close. We became friends. He's like my bro. Now, everybody around me gets nicknames. So he's Big Rich. He's a big guy. I call him Big Rich.
Very original.
Zaza, I call Zaza. You know why I call Zaza? Her last name, listen to this, is Gabor.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Zaza
That's her
Gabor.
real last name.
Yeah.
So right away, I'm old enough that Zaza Gabor. So right away, she got the nickname Zaza.
I know who that is. There's no pictures.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I know who that is.
So that's her nickname. So I came very lucky with Richie, and we've been working together. We still do. I mean, he still has his company and his organization. He does great work. He just did a project not too long ago in Florida that was absolutely magnificent. I hear people. I'm not in that type of business, but I hear people raving about what him and his company did, and we work together on separate projects, different projects, but we still together, still talking, still helping each other. And I think he's the one who made this happen.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. By the way, did you get plastic surgery in the witness protection program? I heard
I've always been this beautiful.
really okay, because I've heard because I heard Diane Sawyer say like, "Oh, you got disguised," and I was like, "Disguised? He looks the same. The difference is you don't have a hair. Other than that, you know, you're a little older, but like you can. I mean, people recognize you everywhere we go.
You know what
unless they're
happened
too young.
last night after we ate? I went with the Gambino,
Uh-huh.
and I stopped. I was going to get a pack of cigarettes. So I go in, and there's this big guy, and he starts talking to me. And your podcast is and your videos are fucking great. Oh, so we shake hands, right? Video's looking. And then I go, he goes before me, and then I go. And then there's two Indians, a guy and a younger girl. I guess it's his daughter. He looked a lot, maybe it's his girlfriend, who the fuck knows. But anyway, he says,
Yeah, you don't want to make that mistake.
"You're the bull."
Yeah.
So I said, What? You're the bull. You're Sammy the bull, right? He grabbed me, hugged me, gave me a kiss on the cheek, and his daughter is there, and she's shaking my hand. So Vito, when I went out, he says, "What the fuck was that all about?"
Yeah.
I said, "I think they recognized me, bro."
For sure. Yeah.
He
if they knew
says,
your
"Does
name.
that happen a lot?" I said, "Yeah. Listen, I don't look like when I was younger. I aged a lot, and I aged a little fucked up. You know, I got sick in prison, but now with this podcast and everything that's going on, I'm being recognized a lot."
Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure. Yeah, I think.
And the best was I was with my ex-wife. We went to dinner, and another Indian couple, right? The woman is looking at me and looking at me and looking at me. Well, I says, "I think that woman's looking at you." So I look. I said, "You're not going to like this." What? I've been dating her. I can't believe she keeps fucking following me right in the joint. My wife went nuts. But she knows I'm a ball breaker, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So she started laughing. Yeah, yeah. Sure enough, the woman got up. She was Indian, Native American Indian.
Oh, okay.
And she's listening to my podcast too. Her and her family and all the rest of the people sitting at the table waving to me. It's crazy. But I'm being spotted here and there.
That's it. I mean, it definitely
And
happens.
it's in
when
a
we're around.
positive way.
Yeah.
People are liking, what I'm doing. I'm sure
Yeah.
some people may not like this interview. They might not like me.
Mhm.
The interview is great. You're good. And but some people are like, this interview and stuff like that. And maybe some will like me, some won't. I don't know.
Well, it's been fun, man. It's been really interesting. I know you've told fractions of these or fragments. You've told fragments of these stories at dinners and stuff like that. But it's good to be able to sit down and
Right.
get a lot more of it out.
Right. And we met. This is the second time.
This is, I think, the third time.
Yeah, maybe the third
I
time.
don't know. It's hard to remember.
You're a good guy.
Thank you very much.
All right, bro. Take care.